There are worse disorders to have. I've got the personality one and the colorblind one, and that's enough for now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BTB Movie Club podcast. My name is Mike Hilty. We hope you enjoyed today's movie discussion. Thanks for listening.
Here we go. You guys ready? Ready to roll? This is movie number 219. Matt Smith gets this pick. Nope, that's not right. Mike Hilty gets this pick this week. We're on top of everything here at the BTB Movie Club. Matt is in charge of research though, and he's gonna get a demerit for that one. This is called Bullet Train from 2022. Mike Hilty picked this one off of the theme of find something that movies you might like as a result of something else you picked. So, Hilty, give us a quick reminder of how you arrived at Bullet Train and take it away.
Matt Smith, go ahead. I'll let you speak
Boy, these
if you
guys
would
made
like.
one little mistake, just one tiny little mistake.
He doesn't make fun of us.
Right.
Thank
wait.
you, Matt. Thank you for pointing
Wait a
that
minute.
out.
So this was in both everything everywhere all at once and the Nice Guys. So I figured
Okay.
if it's in two spots, might as well pick it.
Actually, having watched it and now hearing that again, that makes perfect sense. I think they got that one right.
I would say so as well. You know what, Tim,
Mhm.
since you said my name incorrectly, I will go ahead and kick it to you first. And
Thank you.
particularly I'm curious for you because the since I've been part of the group, you've actually picked, I don't know, either it's consciously or subconsciously, you picked a number of movies set in Japan.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, is that something that you typically enjoy? And if so, how does this stack up amongst some of the other movies that you like that have Japanese influence?
Ooh, good, solid question there. I do enjoy foreign films. I like reaching out and finding some foreign films. So I've liked some of the stuff from South Korea. Have I don't did I pick something from Japan? I don't remember. Um,
Well, since I've been part of the group, you picked Yojimbo and
oh yeah,
Godzilla.
oh yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
those were two that I was like, I
Those
wonder if
those
that's
sound
kind of a through
familiar.
line. Yeah.
Yeah. I just really enjoy reaching out and doing foreign film stuff. Love Amelie from France, and I've picked some stuff from South America throughout the years. I just do like branching out there. This one, it's interesting the the casting of Brad Pitt for this, having come from a novel written in Japanese and translated, and having a lot of Asian characters, the Brad Pittness and Sarah Bullockness of this. I know they took a little bit of criticism for whitewashing, so to speak, the story. So I don't know if it really places in with me. I think this is an Americanized movie using Asian characters as opposed to a Japanese set movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like make no mistake, this is not a Japanese movie
Right.
by any means. It is an American made movie that happens to be set in Japan.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess preface it that way.
Yeah. So I looked at this like Speed, Gross Point Blank, and Kill Bill had a drunken threesome, and 9 months later, this baby was born. That's kind of how I was looking at this one. At first, I had a hard time getting into the movie. Um, I wouldn't call it a slow start, but it was just like a what's going on start for a little bit for me. Um, I did enjoy the aloofness of Brad Pitt's character and how he was referring to things and his reflection after therapy with Barry. I think is hilarious throughout the movie, but at first it was a little confusing. Um, and it wasn't until I got into a second or third action scene that I really started to put it together. Naming the characters and putting their names on the screen felt very Kill Bill to me, and it worked. It worked really, really well. Um, and then piecing the stories together as we were going back in time and then back to where we were worked for me. It just took a little bit for me to figure out what was going on and get into it. But once I was hooked, I was definitely hooked. Um, I've got some trivia stuff about this movie. I mean, at the end of the drama, just I'm sorry, the end of the plot, um, it kind of goes off the rails a little bit, so to speak.
And
I
literally,
really, literally didn't mean to make that bad of a pun. I should mute myself for that. But the plot just
don't
gets a little out of control at the end for me, so I get detached from the end of it. Um, but it didn't take away from the overall experience. I mean, they weren't going for this is gonna win for best plot, kind of thing. It was entertaining. It was, I think, very funny. Um, and so let me hit you with a little bit of trivia and some of my favorite quotes. Um, Bad Bunny, who played the wolf during the fight scenes, accidentally actually punched Brad Pitt in the face, which
mhm.
I think is great. Um, let's see. Director David Leitch. Am I pronouncing that right? Do you know Hilty? Is it Leitch?
Yeah.
He played. He was a stuntman for Brad Pitt in several movies that we have watched. Actually, Fight Club and Ocean's 11. Maybe we didn't watch these other ones. Troy, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but I know we watched Fight Club recently. Um, love Staying Alive and Holding Out for a Hero in Japanese. I don't know why, but I heard them and I really loved it. I mean, maybe it set the scene that hey, we're in Japan. But it was just kind of it was a pick me up in a part of the movie where I was, trying to get involved. Um, this is my favorite trivia thing. I won't read them all. They were trying to get the right line toward the end of the movie out of Brad Pitt, and the line hurt people." That came from a boom operator. Everybody was just kind of trying a couple of lines, and this guy hanging on to the boom was just like, "Hey, what about hurt people?" And they put it in there. That's fantastic.
Mm.
Um, a lot of this was inspired by Jackie Chan scenes, blending the combat and the comedy, and you can see it. I mean, it's done really well. I love Eurodiesel. I love when he says, "You should be better prepared," and he goes, "I'm mansplaining." All of the reflective stuff was, I just think, really cool. I'm gonna ruin your life the way you ruined mine, dude. I don't even know you. And the last one is the narcissism on this chick, untreatable. Uh, just great comedy, and I thought the action scenes were done really well, and I didn't have a problem believing that we were on a train that was going this whole time. I was in for the ride. Did it again. That's another Punch Strike 2. And so I like that this thing. I like how it ended. It ended with a big crash, and it was an actual crash. Strike. I'm gonna mute. Go ahead. Anybody else?
Uh, Good job, Tim, for keeping yourself on track. I don't feel very
Nicely
good
done.
about that one. That's okay. Um, okay, so I a couple things that I wanted to ask about. So this movie has a ton of cameos. So a couple questions that I have for you, and anybody else can jump in as well, is that who is your favorite cameo? And also, I don't know if you got to this in the trivia, but they did have an idea of who they wanted for Barry, the
Yeah,
therapist.
I did.
So don't say
I'll stay
who,
out of it. I'll stay out of it.
don't
Yeah.
say who, but for anybody else, if you could pick anyone to be the cameo for Barry the therapist, who would you want to be? So Tim, I will start with you. For the first question, who is your favorite cameo in the movie?
Ryan Reynolds for sure. Being the guy that called in sick, it was just perfect. I mean, it just fit really well, and knowing that the director did Deadpool 2, so they have a relationship there together. So that's a really fun cameo. I like that one the best.
Just when you think that one wasn't coming back at all,
Hmm.
they just throw that in at the very beginning or at the very end with the White Death, which what a great name
Yep.
for a supervillain, I guess. Coming in and saying, I, I'm gonna get the guy who murdered my wife, and just when you think it's Brad Pitt who did it, they say Carver, and it's like, oh shit, that's right. Can't
Hmm.
completely forgot about that. But anybody else? Did any of the cameos, or which cameo kind of worked the best for you?
Yeah, I also love Ryan Reynolds. Only, well, mainly because it is such a throwaway. Like it's a shot and done. Like,
That's
and for an A-list act, like that's so great. I love that. But I had a couple little like Channing Tatum was a lot of fun. I like that a lot.
Is this the sex thing?
yeah. Yeah, Channing Tatum has a tendency to just get those interesting cameos because that and in the world no, this is the end because the world's end is the one with the bar crawl. This is the end is yeah, whatever. But good call on Channing Tatum. Anybody else?
I would go Channing Tatum as well, only because I read they literally just were like, "Who's in town? Who can do this? Who would be funny? Channing Tatum would be funny." And then that's how the other movie that him, Bullock, and Pitt are in, that I cannot
The
recall the name of.
Lost
Yeah, that
City.
one kind
Mhm.
of got born from that as well. So I'd say he definitely played his part well.
All right.
I'm going to answer your Barry question with somebody else because I
Okay.
know who he wanted.
Okay.
Just because of the way all of this kind of interaction went, if you got Jeff Bridges to act like the dude from Big Lebowski on the other side of the phone, I think that would be great.
Mhm.
What was the movie where Alan Arkin was a therapist and trying to talk? Was that Gross Point Blank?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna go Clooney. I think
Yeah,
Clooney would have been
Oh,
funny.
that'd be great.
I
Yeah.
Like
think
just
Clooney would have been
just
good
like
as well.
mentioning him the whole time and then just get like the one little cameo at the end and it's Clooney. That would have been pretty funny.
Yeah, Clooney or Ed Norton, uh,
Yeah.
potentially as well. I thought that would have been
Yeah.
kind of funny. Tim, would you like to reveal who they wanted to get for it, but couldn't find a way to make the schedules align?
Yeah, it was Keanu Reeves,
Yeah.
which just the way he talks is perfect for the message that Brad Pitt was repeatedly delivering.
So, and Tim, the last question I have for you, and this is a question I'm going to ask everybody. If you were assassin, what would be your assassin code name?
I mean, the wolf's already taken. That's just ridiculous.
Well,
Let's see. When I was younger, I felt agile and just like a badass, like a wolf. But now that I'm older and slower, maybe I'd be the manatee. The manatee.
the manatee. I like it.
Nobody else is picking that. Nobody.
Well, not with that attitude, but I get what you're saying with that. All right, cool. Thanks, Tim. Let's see. So I did text Wilden if he had any thoughts. All he said was hadn't seen it before, but wanted to. Fun movie, maybe a bit convoluted at times, but I enjoyed it. I'll see if I can get the answers to any of the other.
What he meant there was that it goes off the rails. That's what he meant.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of off the rails, Dan, what did you think of Bullet Train?
Okay. It was okay. For what it is, a action movie with over the top violence, and I definitely think this plays better for the younger generation. Um, but I was entertained. Tim said a couple of movies that he thought it was like similar to. They thought of one that I definitely thought was Pulp Fiction. As I'm going through this movie, I kept thinking, Pulp Fiction. This is so similar to that for me. Um, but yeah, because of the fast-paced dialogue and stuff like that. But the plot really, like a lot of action movies, the plot isn't believable, and there's no character development for the people. Um, and yeah, we mentioned that this movie is set in Japan, but it was basically all white people in the movie. You hardly see any. The conductor, yeah, what's his name? Oh shoot, his name just went out of my head.
Hero.
The
This is
actor
what
is
I know him by.
Masi Oka.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, very very few Japanese characters in this movie. And you down on Michael Shannon, who they kind of made him look a little bit Japanese with the long hair and the but yeah, and in the end, I kind of agree with Tim. The end, it was kind of fun throughout the whole movie, but then towards the end, like the last 15 minutes or so, the last act gets a little more silly than fun. So I'm not going to say the word go off the rails. So, oh, I just did. And I think
You have a
everybody knows
great
that.
impression of Wilson from what's the name
From
of that
Home
TV show?
Improvement, yeah,
Yeah, from Home Improvement. You did
very
a great
Oh,
much.
Wilson improvement
yeah.
impression.
I think everybody here knows I'm not a huge Brad Pitt fan. I think he's okay. I think he's in a lot of good movies, but I'm not, overly impressed with his acting ability. So, I'll say the acting in this movie was okay. Um, but yeah, I think that's about it. And if I had a uh, name that I go with, I'm gonna go with, Tim was saying how he's got older and slower. I'm gonna go with the sloth.
Mm, very, very nice. I like that. So you mentioned something about the this may be playing a little bit better to a younger generation. And to me, something about this that I think the first time I saw this, I kind of pointed to the Marvel vacation of some action movies where they have to inject humor into every everything. And was that one of the things that kind of took you out of it was just the humor sometimes just felt awkward and a little misplaced at times?
Yeah, it was, pretty much constant throughout the movie with the humor there. So yeah, I would say that is part of it, definitely.
And I do hear what you're saying with the Pulp Fiction of it all. It's just Tarantino also just heavily influenced a lot of this movie with the flashbacks, with the callbacks to things, with innocuous conversation pieces. Um, yeah, so good call out with that as well.
This director, I ask you guys a question. I'm not familiar with this director. Does he do basically action movies? Is that his thing?
And
Mainly,
comedy.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. So I think the last couple that he's directed Deadpool 2, he's directed this, he directed The Fall Guy as well. All very heavy stuntman movies. He I think also I don't think he directed it, but I think he was heavily involved, like he produced and did some stunt work on John Wick as well.
Okay.
So
That makes sense. Yeah.
Looking at
oh,
it says he co-directed it but didn't get credit, which that seems like a story that they just gloss over in the
mhm.
quick Wikipedia version. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's that doesn't feel problematic at all. Okay.
right.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Dan. Aaron, what'd you think of Bullet Train?
Um, I liked the last, I'd say half.
Mhm.
Similar to what Tim, it wasn't, and I actually dozed off. Um, not for long. But it just, and looking back on it, I don't know what you could have cut because they are building to some things like, and that I did enjoy at the end. I actually liked how silly it got at the end. I enjoyed that. Um, most of all, the girl getting hit by the truck and then the flashback to see the guy get out of the water and, not pick the truck, but the fact that it was, a citrus truck or whatever wasn't even
It was
lost on
tangerines.
him. Like
Yeah.
he was like, this is meant to happen, and then he's like shouting crazy bitch or whatever inside the cab as, you see her get hit. So like that kind of stuff I loved. Sandra Bullock, I liked her being the voice in the chair, or the voice on the keyboard for him. As far as like now, I didn't miss a part. We never actually met Barry, right?
No,
Okay, so they didn't show somebody else,
no,
and I missed it because like
I don't
you
think we
started
even
asking that
heard him.
question. I'm like, shit, I don't know who it is.
no.
You know,
We didn't even hear a phone call with him, right? He's just
No.
referencing things that he
right?
said to him, I
Yep,
think, the whole time.
that's what I thought. I put no thought into it until you asked the question. I think, and I know I always go back to like analyze this and analyze that. So like, but not Billy Crystal. I think it would be fun to have like somebody who notoriously has a bad temper or plays characters with bad tempers to be Barry. So if it was like De Niro or somebody like that, you know, I thought that'd be funny.
Adam Sandler.
Yeah, you know, somebody who's known for a short fuse or being a murderer, you know, in other movies. I mean, I understand why, you know, critics didn't really like it, you know, looking at its numbers. But crowds, you know, I think it had like a 78% or something like that. So that's pretty good. Whoever brought it up, you know, hit the nail on the head. My 20-year-old son walked through and he was like, "Oh, Bullet Train, I love it." And it was like, right, it was in the first half, and I'm like, I don't, you know. He's like, oh no, you know. So but it might just be a generational thing. But I really did, I enjoyed the end. I liked when it picked up, about from when the the girl assassin came out of the suit. You know, I thought from there to the end, you know, I really enjoyed. Was that the same girl that played Domino in Deadpool? Okay.
Yep.
I thought it was her when she first took it off, but then when she was wearing like the bellhop costume, I wasn't 100% sure if that was her. She seemed bigger. I was pretty sure it was her though. And I liked her a lot in both movies. Yeah, overall, you know, once I got to the last half, I'd say, you know, it would be more than a like than a dislike for me. I'd watch it if it was on TV, if it was, you know, if I was scrolling through and found it, probably wouldn't go searching for it. I can see where some of the, you know, whitewashing, you know, making the main assassin a white guy, and even the guy he was replacing was a white guy. The main Japanese bad guy is a white guy, but they explain that he's a Russian that, you know, usurped the, I don't want to say the throne.
It kind of is the throne, though.
Yeah, I guess the Yakuza throne. And you know, I dig that dude. I thought he played a great part. The girl being his daughter. I mean, it all as neat as you want it to be in this kind of goofy movie. Tied up pretty well at the end, you know, with why everybody was there when they finally got to explaining it. Yeah, I just thought, and to be fair, which it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I did watch it on Hulu, and I don't have Hulu Premium, so I did get like 4 or 5 1-minute commercials. They seemed really quick. It wasn't like watching it on, you know, Tubi or something like that. So I figured if it started to annoy me, I'd just go back and rent it. But, you know, I just watched it with the commercials. But like I said, I don't think that took too much away from it. I don't think that was the reason I didn't like the start or anything. But yeah, I mean, I thought everybody did a good job. I liked the twins. I don't think the wolf got as developed as mainly, you know, as well as it could, but I mean, there was a lot of characters. But I understand needing that part to get to the poisoning and how Brad Pitt and the girl were there, and you know, convoluted, but how it had to work.
Right.
When it got to that point, Aaron, didn't you kind of feel like, okay, that's why the wolf was here? Because other than that, like the wolf being there didn't make a lot of sense at all.
Right.
And like it didn't vibe with the other stories for me. But then when you hear her, I kind of went, okay, I get it. But I was also like, all right, I kind of see what you guys are doing.
Right.
You know, I like the Hornet a lot better than the wolf.
Yes.
In this. But anyway.
So Aaron, to your point, if there was something to potentially cut and you could rewrite a little bit around it, probably for me it'd be the part with the wolf to try to figure out how to incorporate that a different way, which is fine. But also to everyone's point with the younger generation, it's Bad Bunny, man.
Right. And
So
I didn't know who that was when Tim said
Right.
his name. So
Same.
I still don't know who it is. I've heard the name, but
You heard last week we talked about him for a minute last week.
I don't remember
Oh, just that
that.
he's in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
and I may
Dan,
have
can you name a Bad Bunny song?
No.
Okay.
did we say a he, because I might have actually thought Bad Bunny was a girl. Now I think I remember the conversation because I thought it was Bad Barbie or the
No.
girl, the Catch Me Outside
Yep.
girl,
Uh,
or whatever she goes by now. And that, she's worth like $28 million or some shit because of OnlyFans. That what kind of world we live in, I have no idea. But anyway, I guess I'll say good pick. Like I said, I really enjoyed the last, more than third, not quite half. But I understand, like you talking about cutting out parts. It's one of those things going back. It's like, maybe could they have sped it up? I understand that they really couldn't cut it out because they needed some chunks of that storyline to, give everybody reason. So, but other than that, I would watch it if it was on.
you could have said that it wasn't a great pick. I get it. It's fine. It's this movie is definitely a mess, like particularly at the beginning, because it's throwing a lot at you, and it's hard to see the throughput because they're trying to keep a lot of the explanation until later on in the movie, which
Right.
that is a combination of bad storytelling and also you're expecting a lot out of the audience at that point to just kind of stick with it. And that's not exactly fair to do, but filmmakers do that all the time. So you mentioned, let's see, one thing that I had for kind of based on some of the stuff that you were talking about. So towards the end, um, just when you think you can't just keep layering and layering and layering things, that eventually ends with this big confrontation with the White Death. I'm kind of curious your thoughts because it hasn't been mentioned yet by anyone. The Hiroyuki Sanada character, the Elder piece, which that kind of brings it back a little bit to the Japanese centric story, but also he's kind of the most serious of the group, and he doesn't have a whole lot of time because there's so much other going on. So I'm kind of curious, Aaron, what did you think of that whole part? Because it is very different from all the other action set pieces and the characters. And I'm kind of wondering if you felt it was a little out of place because I kind of felt it was a little out of place at times.
Oh yeah. Um, with him, it would have been like, when he shows up at the end on the train, we've seen him in the hospital. And he's kind of berating his son, for not protecting his family and whatever. How do a psycho throws him off a roof? That's not really something you train for.
Mhm.
But it's like, ooh, this is kind of a neat little bow that, he has all this history with the White Death and the whole Yakuza before that you just never mentioned it before,
Right.
so it was kind of weird, but I liked it. I liked the fight that it added to it. I liked him, how he used the scabbard, cane part and the sword together, to get leverage. I liked a lot of that. That was very creative. And how far he sunk it down into the White Death's shoulder, and how he lived
Mhm.
after that to walk around and try to kill a few more people. But um no, I mean, overall, I like the character, and I don't mind that they, you know, basically, revealed Superman at the end or whatever, and they're like, hey, there's this thing I got to tell you. And And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, the cane's a sword, you know.
Of course.
But no, I didn't mind it. I liked it, you know.
Mhm.
Like I said, the sword fight, his sword fighting at the end, I enjoyed. I'm glad it was there. Something Tim pointed out when you were kind of saying the whole thing was kind of a mess. I did like it stylistically. I did like the names and kind of the pop art kind of stuff that was going on with it, and everybody with their quirky little stuff. And I know other directors or other writers have done that. The twins that aren't, one's black and one's white, and
Mhm.
the hitman with a conscience.
They're not
and,
twins. They're definitely not twins.
right. But all that stuff, and his Thomas the Tank Engine thing, and who's the Diesel and who's the shit disturber, and the sticker on her back, all of it. It all worked when it eventually got there, I think.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I like the character, the grandfather.
Did you know that that was Sandra Bullock's voice or did anybody know it was Sandra Bullock's voice?
I think I saw a trailer. I saw her in a trailer, so I picked up on it.
It sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. Like
Mhm.
I know this actress, but I can't place. I didn't look, so I couldn't place it.
Yeah, not the first time I saw it, and then even the second time, it took me like I was trying to figure it out, and Jane knew right away, and then I got there like after 2 minutes or something.
Mhm.
Hilty, do you know the first choice?
Lady Gaga.
Yeah, they had Lady Gaga signed up to do it, and there was a conflict.
Yeah.
She's everywhere all of a sudden.
She is everywhere all of a sudden.
I like Lady Gaga a lot, but I think this works a lot better with Brad Pitt as your protagonist to have Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I don't know if they have, you were just talking about different people who have worked with each other in different things, either for this guy. My wife and I, one of our guilty pleasures is the Ryan Reynolds, Sandra Bullock, where she's his boss, and then they go to Alaska or whatever.
Oh, The
and his
Proposal.
Yeah.
Love that.
We'll watch that every time that's on.
Yep.
We both really like watching that. So I think they were, they're great in that together. So.
And then Aaron, what would be your assassin code name?
Chipmunk.
Chipmunk. Nice.
Oh, we're a bunch of badasses in this movie group. A manatee, a sloth, and a chipmunk walk into a bar.
Well, speaking of, Wilden sent me 3 picks. He would go with
Velociraptor.
Raptor was number 1. Well played. 2
You really
would be
dug deep for that.
2 would be Echo, which both of those would be good. And then one that he just kind of threw in there for movie purposes, Peppermint. So Raptor, Echo, Peppermint. Rep.
That sounds like a decent call sign.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Mike Hilty. I'm sorry, Matt Smith. Could you go
come on.
next?
Wow. Yes, I can.
Mhm.
So I'd never seen this before. Really enjoyed it. My wife didn't get to see the whole thing with me, but she watched a little bit of me, and the first thing she said was, "This kind of feels Tarantino-ish."
Mhm.
And I totally agreed. So I literally turned the movie on and watched it. I didn't pay attention to the director. Obviously, I knew some of the actors. And right in the middle, it reminded me of Deadpool because it just the violence, but the humor, like it just sort of reminded me of Deadpool. And then obviously that makes a lot of sense based on the director and everything else. So, yeah, no, I really enjoyed. Somebody said stylistic. I agree with that. I like the style they filmed this in. I like the dark humor aspect. They kind of everybody's sort of joking around in the middle of but again, like I think Tim said, Gross Point Blank or something, right? Like
Mhm.
where it's kind of like this weird comedy with a lot of killing in it. And it's just like oh, this is just what we're doing. So a little bit Tarantino there too.
Matt,
Loved all the
you know
actors.
what line from Gross Point Blank kept coming up to my mind was when Cusack's handler, which is his or assistant, which is his sister,
Yeah.
real life sister, she mentions the guy from the Eastern European whatever, and he goes, "Oh, I know that guy. He's an asshole."
Yeah.
I felt like this whole movie was like as he's recognizing these guys, like I felt like that line
Yeah.
was happening over and over.
Yeah. Yeah, just the guy who played Tangerine, um, Aaron
Taylor
Taylor
Johnston or
Johnson. That's it.
Johnson. Yeah.
He looks a little different. I know he recently did a really bad Marvel movie, but
Mhm.
he was Quicksilver and did some other stuff. So Lemon was born in North Carolina, which was probably my biggest shock of this whole stinking movie, was that guy was not actually British.
Nope.
Yeah.
And I recognized him because, and I had to look it up. I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere. He was in Eternals, which is another not very great Marvel movie, but he's been in a bunch of other stuff. And I'm like, man, he's in a lot of American films. And then I realized, oh, it's because he's American.
Yeah.
But I was totally, I believed it. His believability
great.
on his accent was
He's
great. And I know he worked with somebody else did too. I can't remember. He worked with the same guy that somebody else did. Anyway, yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, Hiroyuki Sanada.
mhm.
He just has that classic Japanese like wise master thing going for him. If you just kind of look at what he's been in, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I know he's been in Shogun, which is the new thing, but then he was in Last Samurai and he was in Mortal Kombat. Um, something else I saw. Oh, he was in Westworld, which I love that show, Westworld. And then he was in a Marvel movie too.
He was in the Wolverine, the one set in
Yes, but he
Japan.
was in, wasn't he was the one that Ronan kills in the street too in one of them, right? Is he in that one? Is that Doctor Strange? Anyway, I'll look it up.
Avengers, right?
Avengers. Oh yeah, Avengers when they anyway, it doesn't matter. He just has that like classic old Japanese guy kind of vibe to him. I love it. Michael Shannon as the White Death is a choice. I love it. He's a good actor, but that
Isn't
was
that
a
the guy that
choice.
limps around in Knives Out?
Yeah, he's
Yes.
he's
Yes,
just
it
yeah,
is.
he's a different bird.
Yeah.
Definitely a different bird. Um, what else? Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I would watch it again. I probably will end up watching it again because my wife didn't get to see it all. So she already said like, "Oh, I was interested. Let's watch it." I've a couple other trivia things. Brad Pitt's character keeps relating the faces to like where he met them. He actually has that condition in real life. Whatever, I have it up here, prosopagnosia or something, where he can't recognize faces
Mhm.
unless he puts a context to it, which I find very interesting for a really good actor, like somebody who works in Hollywood, not being able to. I mean, he must make a lot of enemies in Hollywood. Be like, wait, who are you again? Uh, like screw
Well, and
that
he's
Brad
acting
Pitt,
through that. Like he has to remember lines and stuff, and he has a hard time
right? But
remembering
like,
people's names, and he's
but
fighting
just
through this
not
stuff,
being
and
able to remember
Dan's picking on
faces.
him, and this
Yeah.
poor guy's dealing with a real life,
We're
to
we are
play.
all entitled to our choices, you know, no matter how much they come into conflict with one another.
Yeah, so the movie's great. I have two other things. One, I did see an article. I was just kind of searching around. This was brought up as a movie that they think the critics got wrong. It does not have, like I think Aaron said, the critics did not give it a great score. And the audience did. It was this person's opinion, who knows. But some other movie critics' opinion that the rest of the critics got it wrong. That's actually a really good movie. Um, and they should reevaluate. And then, of course, because of the Japanese setting, we've already talked about it, lots of white actors and English actors. Um, and the person who wrote the book literally was like, no, it's fine. Like, I wrote it. They
That's
could be
right.
anybody. Who cares? And
Mm,
like a bunch of Japanese people were upset. They're like, no, no, no. They were clearly Japanese. And the author's like, nope, guys, I don't care. Like, it could have literally been anyone. Nobody
right,
cares.
Yeah.
right.
Which I always find that funny. And I get it, like you're saying that because you're getting a movie made, but at the same time, like if they really cared that much, they would have stopped the productions, and it could have been stopped because it was a COVID thing. Um, they had to totally
Lots
restart after
lots
COVID.
of COVID things.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
so
this unfortunately is definitely a COVID casualty when it comes to movie making because they wanted to make it a lot bigger in scope by filming more on location, but they've had to film a lot on sound stages. and they scaled the story back a lot so that pretty much most everything could have taken place on the train instead, which I did not mind. I would not have minded if most of the story was just set on the train
Mhm.
instead. But
Yeah,
that's not
I did read that the director purposely would do some of those flashbacks and stuff outside the train. He said very smartly, like, you've been stuck on this train for how many minutes? Like, I can't just like you're gonna get bored at some point of just watching, like, we're gonna run out of things to entertain you. So I thought that was pretty self-aware, right? Like, we're in this one little train this whole time. We need to break out of there. So anyway, no, good pick. Never seen it, but glad I watched it. So and we'll be watching it again. So good stuff.
Did you have a action sequence or a fight sequence that you liked the best?
Oh,
Ooh.
I will say that is one thing I will say. I did find myself giggling a little bit at a couple
Oh
things,
yeah.
which whatever. It is what
Mhm.
it is, right? Put them on the wires and pull them around. That's fine. Like when Brad Pitt's they hit the brakes, right? So he's flying backwards through the and like the coffee urn hits him in the face and like he's just like "Ugh." And I'm thinking, man, the thing was going pretty fast. I'm not good at physics,
That
but
that would have
Yep.
hurt a lot.
Yep.
yeah, I think just the end with it was a lot to put together, and I think they did a pretty good job of focusing at the right moment on the right part of the fight. So you got the dad fighting with White Death, and somebody already mentioned the sword through the shoulder and the cane, and he's using that. And then you got the guys in the front who are kind of uh, accidentally winning their fight against their minions. And then you got so I thought that the end one is probably my favorite. But there's a lot of good stuff with the using the doors and kicking people through windows and doing all sorts of stuff. But that last one was definitely the best.
Mhm. Anybody else favorite action piece?
I
I
like
like
the Sonata. I mean, the sword play stuff. Was my
I
favorite.
en I enjoyed the end with the Hornet, with
Mhm.
the syringe. When she drops it right into him, you're just like, oh, you know.
And
And when
then
he
When
gets
it hit
bit
it,
by the snake,
Gets
same
bit
kind of
by the
thing as
snake. Yeah.
oh yeah,
I actually needed the exposition because when he gets bit by the snake, I'm like, oh shit, they've already said there's not a second dose, I'm
right.
like, and then he's like, good thing I've already had a dose of anti-venom today. I'm like, oh, it would still be there,
Yeah.
so it explained it, because
and
I
he
was
and
like,
he I read he got the dose in 28.4 seconds or something. Like they timed it out
they
perfect.
timed it out, yeah.
That's funny.
And I
Just
don't
like
think
all
that's how
those
science works, by the way. But
and the train stops were all exactly a minute too. They like made it because that's how long the bullet
oh,
train
nice.
stops.
Mhm.
Thought that was
Nice.
interesting.
and it's funny you brought that up because I meant to pay more attention because after the very first one, Brad Pitt makes a comment like that didn't seem like a minute.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I wonder if it was actually a minute or if if it wasn't a minute, if he was like telling the audience, hey,
Yeah.
we're gonna shave some time off this.
Did you guys see him kicking Tangerine out the door? I saw him stalling, and I was like, he's definitely kicking him out the door
Yeah,
right before the
for
door
sure.
closes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Maybe the only thing I saw coming was that in the whole movie.
Not necessarily a fight though, but I really liked the grandfather's explanation about a ladybug.
Mhm.
Because Brad Pitt's like, it's supposed to be lucky, and he's like, well, not really.
Not really.
It
Yeah,
takes in all the bad luck for everybody else, so it's lucky for the people around. He's like, I don't want to be that.
that's a shit deal.
That's a
Yeah.
shit deal. I also like
Yeah.
the plum thing. He's like,
Yeah,
wait, so we're the plums?
right.
Wait, who's the
Yeah.
farmer? And the guy's like, why are we talking in metaphors?
Mhm. I used to commute into the city, and I always forgot a lot of times if I'm in a quiet car. So that whole fight in the quiet car, first of all, that's not a quiet fight. Like, I don't
Right.
understand how you could hit somebody with like a laptop, but I thought it was really creatively done, and I really enjoyed that. And the person that just kept shushing them, I was like, oh, shut up. Like, if you, whatever, but I, I think that's one of the kind of just funny things about just something. that people who ride on a train a lot understand is that you're in a quiet car and there's always that one person that's like, we're in a quiet car, and you're always like, eat a bag of dicks, shut the fuck up. So um so that one's definitely up there for me. Matt, your assassin code name.
I'm gonna go Tortuga.
Tortuga.
Tortuga. It's
Very
turtle, by the way.
Thank you for that.
Tortuga.
All right, Melo, take us home.
All right. Second time watching this, probably a year or so ago. I liked it then. It was more just like, hey, I'd heard this is kind of fun, so let me check it out. I didn't, give it uh, as much thought as this time around. Um, I loved the cameos. I was paying attention to that. So Hero again, Masa Oki, I believe,
Mhm.
man is due, but I know him, from Heroes. It was such a good first season, and after that, who knows? But C Tate and the Ryan Reynolds one I already talked about. I wonder, if they want to do a sequel. I think that there's ample room to do something there because they did so little with it here.
Well, Melo, just for a second, this is a sequel.
Oh,
Of the series
okay.
of books, they made a movie out of the first book called Grasshopper. And this, I don't think that this movie is meant to be a sequel to Grasshopper, but as far as the book series, this is actually the second book,
Interesting.
which was
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah. So you kept bringing up Tarantino and the stylization and all that stuff. It felt very Guy Ritchie to me.
Yeah, that's
That
another one too.
was, and not Tarantino, but that more, especially because Brad Pitt and Snatch and that whole thing. I was like, oh, I wonder. Like, I didn't know going in who the director was. Which also, I've never. James tried battling with the cats here. I've never. I don't know. I don't know of any other people who have started their career as a stunt performer or director or whatever, and then moved into directing and in so prolific a way. So I'll pause and see if there's anything I'm missing. But
That is pretty cool.
yeah, right. Like I thought, okay.
I
So I
was
don't know,
Brad
man.
Pitt's stunt guy, and all of a sudden I'm directing movies.
And directing Brad Pitt.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, that's a full circle
yeah,
moment for sure.
yeah.
Well, I mean, that makes sense how they landed Brad Pitt for the movie, right? Like, that's, hey, Brad, I got an idea. What do you think about this?
Yeah. How is there an empty car full of unguarded booze?
Yeah.
I had a few more. So there was it's fun. He makes a hole somehow with a golf club and then sets up the luggage and that. And he's like, "Oh, I'm like MacGyver." And the other Tangerine shoots it. Like, just push the golf club through. I didn't think you needed to shoot
That's too easy of a solution.
it.
No, it makes far too much sense for that to be a
I
solution.
guess. Oh, speaking of Tangerine, he's on the phone when he's kind of like done, and he says, "Your son is a complete bell end." That is one of my favorite insults. I wish we used that more or at all in America. I mean, it's basically the same as dickhead, but it's a great one. The 100 Miles song. I think this is the second movie. I'm pretty sure that was Inside Llewyn Davis.
Mm.
So there was that. Michael Shannon. He's when I he's such a weird guy. Like, just I don't know personally, but his characters typically have a very weird vibe, and usually I don't know when that's the case. There's some carryover, but the first time I ever saw him was in the Henry Cavill Superman, I believe, as Zod.
Yeah.
But since then, Boardwalk Empire, I just watched Bike Riders. There's been a lot of other things that I've seen him in, and he just kills it every time. And
He was
I
in
think the
George and
same.
Tammy recently. Sorry,
I don't know that one. What was that
that
one?
was good. He plays George Jones. It's George Jones and Tammy Wynette.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
he was really
okay,
good in that.
okay.
Melo,
Awesome.
timeline wise, did Boardwalk Empire come out before he was Zod and Superman? Because
Yes, it
okay,
must
because
have.
I had seen him in Boardwalk Empire, but I don't know if I saw the Superman movie way late or anything.
Yeah, no. I didn't watch Boardwalk Empire
Okay.
until later. I've been
And
going. There's that. There's
he's so
Rome.
weird in that.
Vikings. I'm going through right now. Yes,
You know,
he's
the
super
arc of his
weird.
character. And then he's
Yeah.
Zod and Superman. I'm like,
I forgot he
"What?"
was Zod, and he's perfect as that.
Yeah, but
And-
he's a very different person in Boardwalk. Like you wouldn't think the same guy could play both roles, but like he's a weird.
Yeah, the
dude.
whole arc in Boardwalk Empire is just all over the place. But so here's a fun thing. So the guy who was there's two Mercs. One literally in the credits as Curious Merc. They're they're deciding if they should open the case and this and that, and you can't. They both have masks over their face, whatever. I went to school with that guy. I was in college with him. The white guy, for lack of a better term, Matt Smith is his name. His actual name and his credited name is Jason Matthew Smith, but he goes by Matt Smith. And he's the guy who opens the case, and that whole thing explodes.
That's
He's been in a
awesome.
whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. Good dude. I knew him, for a little bit. We definitely did not keep in touch in any way. There was an ESPN show about like a football team, and then it got canceled after one season because they were bringing in like real headlines from the NFL. Shit, I can't remember what the hell the name of it was. I'll find it. Anyway, he was like the main linebacker guy, and so that was fun. Because I watched this the first time, I didn't know that he was in it because he had the mask on, and then because we were going through it this way, I was looking through the credits. I'm like, oh shit, Matt, and so I was looking at that. Yeah, mentioned the whole Ryan Reynolds thing.
So there's no chance of you texting him presently while we're talking about this.
No, I would. It would. There's like 2 to 3 steps I'd have to maybe do. Yeah, that's 25 years.
Yeah, awkward.
Yeah,
Playmakers, by the way.
Thank you, Playmakers.
I had to look it up, but it's Playmakers.
Yeah. All right, I got my nickname. I don't know if you're still on that.
Yep, let's do it.
I'm a big Transformers nerd. I'm gonna go with Optimus.
Nice.
Very nice. Okay, so you asked about are there to answer your question, yes, there's some other stunt people who have gone on to work behind the camera. Not a ton of them. And not counting one-offs like Jackie Chan and Donnie Yen, who they were stuntmen who turned actors and then who directed like one or two things. Most prevalent ones, David Leitch, who, in addition to Deadpool 2 and this, he also directed Hobbs and Shaw. He directed The Fall Guy, and he directed Atomic Blonde. All of those heavy action movies rely very heavily on stunt work. Probably the most famous one, Hal Needham, who did Smokey and the Bandit, or he directed Smokey and the Bandit, but he was a stunt double for Kirk Douglas and Charles Bronson as well. Quite the range there. So very nice. I love it.
Hey, so while we're checking out pictures of our surnames here, surname. What's the word for that?
Pseudonym?
I just called it a code name.
Code name. I just want to point out that the book is actually kind of an action book, and as one of the producers, Antoine Fuqua,
Fuqua,
he
yeah.
started putting this together, and like he was going to direct it, and it was just going to be an action film. And it's I don't know how it turned into David Leitch was going to do this and Brad Pitt got involved, but somebody had to rewrite it for the comedy. And I don't know who gets the credit for that, but I think it's pretty good. Like to take that book and that idea and then go, you know what, we're going to do this with it and come up with all those lines and all those comedy sequences. I mean, somebody did some pretty fucking good work there.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I definitely do agree with that because some of the comedy does work. I think Brad Pitt's character probably is where the comedy works the best. Like the scene where the fight scene with him and the wolf and him and the hornet, where he keeps saying to the wolf, like, I don't even know
I
you,
don't even
man.
know
And
you.
then
Yeah.
when when he takes the antidote from the hornet, keeps saying like, do you need anything right now? Do you need a blanket? Do you need somebody to hold your hand?
Yeah. Water.
Um,
Oh, you want water? You want water?
the, the water bottle thing at the end, I found that kind of weird. It's like we have like I get it, the water bottle has been a thing throughout most of the movie, but to like specifically narrow in on that just for it to just be something that we throw at Michael Shannon that doesn't even kill him at the end of the
Yeah.
day. I thought that that was kind of interesting. Uh,
They made him pay for it though. I like that.
well, yes, they definitely made him pay for it, and they definitely he definitely died just a brutal way by just the gun going off on him as well, which you can kind of see that that's kind of where that's going, that somebody big is going to die because of that, but I wasn't expecting it to be that gruesome, but hey, it is what it is. With that, yeah, all right, that's all I got. I guess I'll just sign off with this. Mine would be axolotl because I didn't even know an axolotl existed until not too long ago, so I'll go with
Nice.
that.
I have one more trivia thing that I made up for myself. I looked up Joey King, the actress that played the prince, and I just think this is wonderful irony. In 2022, same year, the movie she did just before this movie is called The Princess. So
Yep.
she did a movie called The Princess and then takes on a role called The Prince because my dad wanted you know, he wanted a boy, clearly.
That
She was
so
great.
yeah, she was great. Um, I'm wondering though that like could they have found a way to incorporate her character a little bit more and maybe leave the son completely out of it instead because
Mm,
and I get you get a lot of the motivation for her as the daughter of the White Death. Um a lot of her motivation stems from him picking the son as opposed to her. But I don't know. I just feel like if there's anyone that got a little bit of the short end of the stick, it's her. And I think every time we went back to her, it's like, oh yeah, you're in this
yeah,
too.
you're still on the train. Yeah.
You should be in more of this. And I loved when Lemon kept saying it's like, I don't know how you do this guilty white woman thing, but it is great. And that just keeps coming up. Um, just him putting the diesel sticker behind her as well. That was a nice touch
Mhm.
as well.
You mentioned the Tangerine scene where Tangerine was dying. Uh, it, I I kind of enjoyed some comedy in that scene as blood splurting all over. That he's trying to tell him, dude, she's got a gun right behind you, and he can't get it out. And then I don't remember exactly what Brad Pitt says, but it's something like, this guy's just going through it right now, and it's like he has no clue that the guy's trying to warn him. That's right behind you. She's right there. it's, I don't know.
Well,
I enjoyed that.
I think another really like ridiculous but funny scene is when Tangerine and Ladybug get off they get off the train together. They're like, they don't know what Lemon looks like. They don't know what my brother looks like. And he just, he's trying to sell it, and he flips open the suitcase, and just all that shit falls out.
Yeah.
Like,
I got this bad luck thing.
dude.
Well, and at the very end too, when Lemon is like, "Well, I've got another brother now," and he's like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "No."
No.
No,
He
nope.
decides his solution to all of that is to literally tackle a guy out of the train,
Yeah, right.
as opposed to wanting to be Brad Pitt's brother, which that's that's one reaction to
But when
that.
they get off in that platform scene, and then it's Brad Pitt, and he's like, "Wow, you guys really do look alike."
No, they don't.
Not my brother.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie, man.
Yeah.
I had a good time. I I felt that it walked the line where it didn't take itself too seriously, where then you have to overanalyze and find flaws. Instead, it was just more really fun, and then it allows you to kind of go with some of the stuff that if you think too hard about, maybe it doesn't work.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can't remember who mentioned it, but this is a movie that people are maybe clamoring for critics to go back to and be like, I think you should give this another chance. Critics don't do that, unfortunately. They're pretty set
For
in
sure.
their ways for the most part, and that sucks because as as grow as a person, your tastes evolve and they're different. So, plus also a lot of the ways that critics consume media is not exactly the most ideal from an audience perspective, because they're either watching a screening at home, or that they're at a press screening where nobody's like really reacting to stuff or anything like that, as opposed to going to an actual movie and seeing it with just us regular people who aren't looking at like things like this all the time critically. So um, it doesn't surprise me that there's a huge disconnect with it. Because overall, like, it's a fun movie. Is it a very good movie? Yeah, it's debatable, but it is a lot of fun. And because of how this did at the box office, there's no way that this is getting a sequel. If anything, this could end up being something that maybe gets kicked to television. But I don't see this ever getting a sequel ever again, which sucks because I think the world could be expanded with this, but maybe not so much a sequel. Maybe this is one where, hey, maybe you just bring this into the John Wick verse instead, because I think John Wick, unfortunately, has capitalized a lot more on the underground world of assassins, and this one kind of just suffers from awkward timing. And yeah,
But yeah,
I think that's it.
I said sequel earlier, but not in a traditional sense. Like I don't need Ladybug, I don't need Lemon, I don't,
Mm.
but Carver and
Just a whole, like, you can kind of do it similar to how even Knives Out did it, where the sequel, you've only got really one carryover character, and that's
yeah,
Benoit
right,
Blanc.
right.
But everyone else is
Maybe
is
it's Maria,
completely
right?
different. Yeah.
Or, I mean, it could be, backwards compatible, where we see, what was happening in the Bolivia job, or we see where um Tangerine shoots Brad Pitt's character in the parking garage.
Mhm.
I don't know if any of that's related, or if they could sum it up in like maybe a TV episode.
I mean, one of the most recent Final Destinations did that, where you think it's a Final Destination sequel, but then the end happens and you're like, oh, this all leads up to the very first Final Destination. That's really good. I think something like that could definitely work too. All right, Tim, that's all I got.
So that's a wrap. All right, that's a wrap on Bullet Train. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the ride. Um, so we start out a new theme here, and I got a couple of different ways I could go with this. I'm real tempted to just go with a dealer's choice, and I think that's what we're going to end up doing. But Melo does not enjoy the dealer's choice. He likes a little bit of structure, and so I'm going to say this round is dealer choice. However, I can make a connection with my movie pick. And so, should you choose, uh, we have done this thing where we connect to the last movie we watch in one form or another, whether it's connecting to an actor from the movie or a director or even a theme from the movie. We've been pretty loose with the rules here. So, I'm going to connect, I'm going to say that the rule would be the last round of movies make a connection with anyone that you want instead of the movie that we just watched. Um, or just dealer's choice. I'm just trying to help Melo out here. So here's my connection. I'm going to go with Get Out that Dan picked, and I'm going to go with the actor Lakeith Stanfield, who is the one who actually says Get Out in that movie. He is in this movie from 2013, which I've been wanting to pick for a long time anyway. So I'm just really enjoying finally get to do this. Brie Larson is in this movie as someone who is running a group for youths that are in trouble. We're going to watch 2013's Short Term 12. Short Term 12.
Is that back to back Brie Larson for you?
No, close though.
Okay.
Tim, I
Sure.
really thought you were going to pick Whiplash. It just
Nope,
if we make it this round and nobody picks Whiplash,
it's dealer's choice. It's any Hilty or Smith out there that wants to pick it has
I
I've never
can't.
heard of
I
it.
can't pick
Short-term
it.
12.
Can't pick it now.
short term 12. I has anybody seen it?
No.
yeah,
I've never even heard of it.
I have.
Yeah. I enjoy. I was looking at movies to pick, and this one came up in a search that I did a while ago, and I watched it, and I was really enjoyed it. And I've been trying to sneak this in here somewhere. I think there's some fun parts to it, and there's some serious parts to it, and it's I think it's
Is
pretty
it
good.
without too much? Is it modern day?
Ish, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Like it's not like a throwback to the '60s or anything like that.
Yeah, or the
Yeah.
1810s. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, no modern day. Short term 12. See how you guys feel about that next week. That'll do it for this episode of the BTB Movie Club podcast. Thank you as always for listening. We know we enjoyed ourselves. We hope you did too. Hey, we are partnered with the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. Please stop by and enjoy some of their excellent material. And have yourselves a good week.